Cold wind whipped down the alley behind Baxter's Tavern, carrying the smell of wood smoke, spoiled grease, and winter's warning. Luke Harding tightened his coat and kept walking. Just wanted flour, nails, and a quiet ride back to his ranch. But something in the shadows stopped him mid-step. A sound. Soft. Fragile. A child trying not to cry. Luke turned. Through a crooked board in the supply shed, he saw them. 3 shapes huddled on a dirt floor. A thin woman kneeling straight-backed despite the cold. 2 children pressed against her, their breath fogging the air. On a chipped plate lay half a biscuit and scraps of someone else's dinner. The boy pushed the biscuit toward his sister. The girl pushed it back. Neither ate. Luke's gut pulled tight. He'd seen hunger before. Lost his baby sister to it. Buried guilt deep. Built fences around his heart, so nothing like that could touch him again. But this sight cut straight through every wall he'd built. He stepped forward, fist cracking the door open on old hinges. The family jerked back, startled. Luke removed his hat, voice low and breaking. "Ma'am, pack your things. You and those children are coming home with me tonight." And the question hung heavy in the cold. Would she trust him or freeze trying to stand alone? Luke Harding stood in the doorway, breath steaming in the frigid air. The woman moved fast, pushing her children behind her threadbare skirts. "Get out," she said, chin lifted even though her hands trembled. "We're not both there and anyone. We don't need charity. Just leave us be." Luke looked at the kids, at their cracked boots, their hollow cheeks, their shaking hands. "What's your name?" he asked softly. "Not your concern." "Her name is Marianne Holt." Baxter called from behind Luke, leaning against his doorway with the casual cruelty of a man used to power. "Husband died in the Ridge mine collapse. Left her with debts she can't pay. She worked for scraps. That's all she's worth." Luke turned slowly. "You feed your pigs better than this woman. She's lucky I give her anything," Baxter snorted. "Her man was a thief. Everyone knows it." Luke stepped closer, jaw tight. "How much?" "What? How much did he owe?" $300. "And she'll never." But Luke was already reaching into his coat. He dropped bills onto the ground between them. 20, 40, 60. "What you doing?" Marianne whispered. He kept counting. 100, 150, 200. "Stop," she choked. "I said stop. I can't take that. It's not for you." He laid down the last bill. "It's for them." He pointed at the children. "You heard the man say 300, Luke said loudly. "Anyone else hear it?" 3 men in the alley nodded. "Good." Luke lifted his hat. "Her debt's paid. All of it." Baxter's face twisted. But he didn't argue. Not with witnesses. Luke turned to Marianne. "Get your things." "I don't even know you," she whispered. "Name's Luke Harding. I own a ranch 12 miles west. Got heat, food, room enough for 3 folk who deserve better than this. I'm not your burden. Didn't say you were." He took off his coat and wrapped it around her daughter. "Storm setting in. Temperature's dropping. You planning to let these kids freeze?" Her jaw worked. Her eyes shone, but no tears fell. "Why would you do this?" Luke swallowed hard. "Because I can't walk away." 20 minutes later, Marianne and her children, Ben and Ruth, sat bundled in his wagon beneath every blanket he owned. One small trunk, a cracked rocking chair, and a carpet bag held their entire lives. Snow began to fall heavy as they rolled out of town. "How far?" Marianne asked. 12 miles in good weather. 15 today. But an hour out, the storm thickened. Wind howled. Snow cut sideways. Behind Luke, he heard Ruth coughing and Ben trying to soothe her. Just a little further, Luke muttered, but he wasn't sure. The wagon suddenly lurched. Luke hauled the reins. "Whoa, easy." He jumped down. Boots sank to his knees. The right wheel had fallen into a washed-out hollow hidden under snow. The axle sat at a bad angle. Worse, the wheel was cracked clean through. Marianne leaned over the side. "Can you fix it?" Luke stared at the brake, at the storm, at the fading light. "Not out here," he said. "Not today." "Then what?" "We walk." Marianne froze. "In this? With children? You got a better idea?" He wrapped Ben in a blanket, lifted the boy onto his shoulders. "If we stay, we freeze." He freed the horses, slapped them toward town. They'd find shelter. But now they were alone. Marianne climbed down, Ruth in her arms. Wind screamed around them. "Which way?" she shouted. Luke pointed into the swirling white. "That way. Stay right behind me. You fall behind. You freeze. You understand?" "I understand," she said. They walked. Snow beat them, stole their breath. Luke bent into it, gripping Ben's legs to keep him steady. Ruth coughed against her mother's shoulder. Marianne stumbled, caught herself, pushed forward. "Talk to me," Luke called back. "Don't go quiet." "About what?" Her voice cracked. "Anything." So she did, bit by bit. Her husband, the debts, the shame, the way the town turned on her, the loneliness, the fear. Luke listened, pushing onward. And when she faltered, he told her about the sister he lost, the wife he buried. The years he'd spent alone pretending silence was safer. Hours passed, time beaten senseless by the storm. Then there, Luke gasped. "Fence post. We're close. I don't see it. Trust me. 2 more miles." Marian nearly fell to her knees. "You can do it," Luke said. "For them, you can." She lifted her chin and followed. At last, through the storm's roar, a golden pinprick appeared. A window. His home. They reached the porch half frozen. Luke carried Ben inside. Marianne stumbled in after him with Ruth. Warmth hit like salvation. By the fire, Luke said, voice shaking. They collapsed beside the hearth, clinging to heat, clinging to life. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Ben's legs gave out. Ruth whimpered. Marianne's hands shook uncontrollably. Luke dropped to his knees. "You're safe," he whispered. But he knew the storm outside wasn't the only danger coming. He just changed all their lives. And nothing in this town would ever be the same. Warmth filled the room, but the storm's howl still pressed against the walls like a living thing. Luke fed another log into the fire until sparks lifted and drifted upward in soft orange arcs. Behind him, Marianne sat wrapped in a quilt with Ruth curled tight in her lap. Ben leaned against Luke's old armchair, eyes half closed but still watching every move like a boy afraid the world might disappear if he blinked. "You're shivering," Luke said gently. "I'm fine," Marianne whispered, though her voice wavered. "You ain't fine." He knelt, checking Ruth's hands. "She's cold. Needs heat, water, food." Marianne's breath hitched. I don't know how to thank you." Luke shook his head. "Don't need thanking. Need to get you all through the night." He stood, grabbed blankets from the linen chest, and layered them around the children. Ben's eyes widened. "You got any bread?" the boy asked quietly. Luke paused. Something in that small voice, not begging, not expecting, just hoping. "Yeah," he said. "Got bread. Got stew too." Marianne's head snapped up. "You don't have to. I know what I have to do," Luke cut in softly. "Stay warm. I'll bring it here." She didn't argue. He moved around the kitchen with practiced motions. Pot, ladle, steam rising. The smell of venison stew filled the cabin, rich and heavy, and for a moment everything felt still. When he set bowls in front of the children, they hesitated, polite, unsure. "Eat," Marianne urged. But Luke knelt beside them, meeting their eyes. "Don't rush. Just eat slow." Ben took the first bite. His breath shook. Ruth followed. Marianne watched them, and a quiet sob escaped her. Luke pretended not to hear. After supper, the storm thickened again. Wind slammed against shutters. Snow rattled on the roof like thrown gravel. Luke checked every latch, every window, every hinge. "You built all this yourself?" Marianne asked from the hearth, voice soft. "Mostly." He tossed another log into the fire. "Needed something to keep my hands busy." "And your heart closed?" His head jerked slightly. He hadn't expected her to be so direct. "Something like that." Marianne lowered her gaze. "Mine closed when a mine took my husband. Folks said he was careless. Said he brought it on himself." Luke turned. "Do you believe that?" "No," her voice cracked. "He was a good man. He worked himself sick trying to provide. And when he died, the whole town looked at me like I should have gone with him." Luke's jaw twisted. "That's not on you. That's on them." Silence settled. The good kind. Then Luke asked, "How long were you living behind that supply shed?" Marianne's hands tightened around Ruth. 2 months. 2 months, he repeated quietly. "With winter coming." "I tried everything," she whispered. cooking, cleaning, mending. But the more I worked, the more Baxter charged interest on the debt. Every week he added something new. Luke stared into the fire, anger burning slow and deep. That man's got a reckoning coming, he said. Marion swallowed. Please don't make trouble. I'm not making trouble, Luke said. I'm ending it. Hours later, the children slept near the fire, curled under quilts. Marianne sat nearby, knees drawn close, quietly mending Ruth's torn sleeve with shaky fingers. Luke removed his coat and hung it by the stove. You need rest, he said. I can't sleep yet. Why not? Too many years of listening for danger. He understood that all too well. Luke sat across from her, elbows on his knees. No danger here. Marianne's eyes lifted. Why us? You don't even know us. Luke looked toward the sleeping children. Because I knew them once. She frowned. What do you mean? Luke exhaled slowly. Because a long time ago, I was a brother to 2 kids who went hungry every winter. My little sister died because nobody helped. Folks walked by same as they did with you. I ain't letting that happen again. The fire popped between them. Marianne covered her mouth with one hand. I'm sorry you went through that. Luke shrugged, though the memory burned. Pain's only worth something if you don't let it happen twice. For the first time, Marianne's shoulders softened. Luke, thank you for seeing us. He nodded. It wasn't heroics. It was duty. A promise to a girl he couldn't save, carved into his bones long ago. Near midnight, the cabin creaked under the weight of the storm. Luke stood again, checking windows. You need a bed, he said. Can't have you sleeping sitting up. She shook her head. I can sleep by the fire. Not tonight. Too cold. Follow me. She hesitated, then rose carefully, stepping around the children. Luke led her down the hall to the guest room. Clean blankets. Wooden dresser. A window that only groaned a little in the wind. You can use this, he said. Kids can sleep near the stove where it's warmer. She touched the quilt like she'd never felt one before. It's beautiful. My mom made it. Marion held her breath. You lost her too? Luke nodded once. I'm sorry. He didn't speak for a moment. Then softly, I'll keep watch. You get some rest. As he turned to leave, her voice reached him. Luke, he paused. We won't be trouble. He looked back. You ain't trouble. There was a pause. A soft, fragile pause. You're safe here, he said. Marion blinked hard, eyes shining in the lantern light. She nodded, slow and grateful. Luke stepped out and closed the door gently. Back by the fire, he built a small barrier of chairs so the children wouldn't roll toward the hearth. He settled into his rocker with a wool blanket and his rifle within reach. The storm screamed outside, trying to claw its way in. But inside there was peace. A warm room. 2 sleeping children. A woman trying to hold her fractured world together. And a man who'd vowed, silently, to protect them all. Luke stared into the flames until the shapes blurred. Something had shifted tonight. Something he wasn't ready to name. But he knew the truth. This family wasn't leaving in the morning. Not with the storm. Not with Baxter. Not with danger circling. Like it or not, their lives had tangled with his. And the storm was only the beginning. Dawn came slow, pale and bitter cold. The storm had quieted, but snow still clung thick to the windows, like frostbitten hands pressed against the glass. Luke rose stiffly from his rocker, rubbing the sleep from his eyes. Ben and Ruth were still curled near the fire, warm beneath the quilts. Their soft breaths filled the room. Good. They'd made it through the worst night. Luke stepped quietly into the hall. Marianne's door stood slightly open. He hesitated, then tapped lightly. Ma'am? You awake? A faint voice came back, and he respected it. All right, he said. There's what needs carry in. She nodded and brushed past him. But as she walked toward the fire, she staggered slightly. Luke caught her elbow. You sure you're steady? I'm fine, she whispered, though her face had gone pale. Just hungry. Luke blinked. Of course. Hunger did that. He let go carefully. Sit. I'll fix breakfast. She hesitated, but finally obeyed. Luke cooked eggs and biscuits while the children slowly woke. Ben sat up first, rubbing his eyes with small fists. Where are we? He asked. My home, Luke said. You're safe. Ben's mouth twitched, almost a smile. Then Ruth crawled into Marianne's lap, still half asleep. Luke placed a warm biscuit into the girl's hands. Her eyes widened. She brought it close to her face, like she wasn't sure it was real. "Eat," Marianne whispered. Ruth took a careful bite, then another, then devoured the whole thing with tiny, frantic hands. Luke turned away, throat tight. Breakfast filled the room with quiet comfort. Nobody spoke much. They didn't need to. Afterward, Luke stepped into his boots. "I'm going to check on the barn," he said. Wind maybe knocked boards loose. "I'll come with you," Marianne said, rising. But Luke shook his head. "Stay warm. Keep the kids close." Marianne looked like she wanted to argue, but then she wrapped her arm around Ben's shoulder and nodded. Luke headed outside. Snow swallowed everything. His porch steps were buried thigh-high. The barn roof sagged under white weight. Each breath burned his lungs. He grabbed a shovel and began digging, breath rising in harsh clouds. Halfway through clearing a path, he saw tracks, deep, heavy boot prints coming from the direction of the road. He stiffened. Someone had been close. Very close. He followed the trail until it disappeared behind the barn. Fresh snow dusted the top, but didn't hide the shape. And then Luke saw it. A half-smoked cigar in the snow. Baxter's brand. Luke tightened his grip on the shovel. Baxter had come looking. When he returned inside, Marianne looked up instantly. "Everything all right?" Luke hung his coat, brushing off snow. "Barn standing. Animals are good." She studied him. "But something's wrong." He sat down slowly. Someone came by early, before sunup. Marianne's breath caught. Baxter. His tracks. His cigar. Ben stiffened. Ruth hid behind her mother's skirt. Marianne's voice dropped to a trembling whisper. "He's angry. You paid the debt in front of everyone. Makes him look like a liar." "He's a liar," Luke said. "Yes," she whispered. "But liars with power are dangerous." Luke leaned forward. "You're under my roof. No one touches you here." She closed her eyes. "Luke, you don't know what he's capable of." "I know enough. And I know you're not going back to him." Her voice broke. "I'm afraid he won't give us a choice." Luke stood, jaw set like iron. "I won't let him near you or the kids." Her eyes met his. Trust flickered there, small, fragile, but real. "Why?" she whispered. Luke didn't look away. "Because no one protected the people I cared about. I won't make that mistake again." Marianne pressed a hand to her mouth. Her shoulders shook, not from fear this time, but from something deeper. Relief. Safety. A weight she'd carried too long. Later that afternoon, the storm eased enough that Luke saddled his horse. "I'm going to town," he said. Marianne stood at the doorway. To confront him? No. To get supplies. And to see how much talk there is. Ben tugged Mary's sleeve. "Mama, don't let him go." Luke knelt in front of the boy. "I'll be back before dark." "You promise?" Ben whispered. Luke placed a steady hand on the boy's shoulder. "On my word." He rode off, snow crunching under hooves. Cold wind bit his face as he reached Pine Vale's edge. People stopped to stare. Some nodded. Some turned away. Near the mercantile, old Mr. Dowling called out, "Heard you took in that widow and her young uns." Luke kept his tone level. "Just help in folks who needed it." Dowling spat into the snow. "Baxter ain't happy. Says she stole something from him." Luke's jaw flexed. "She stole nothing." Dowling lowered his voice. "Be careful, Harding. Baxter's been telling folks you're meddling." "He don't like meddling." Luke tipped his hat. "I don't much like bullies." He bought flour, beans, salt, a bolt of cloth for Marianne, and a pair of boots he guessed might fit Ben. But as he stepped outside, Baxter himself appeared. Thick coat, hat low, cigar burning. "Harding," Baxter said, "we need a word." Luke didn't stop walking, but Baxter moved in front of him. "You making a habit of talking what's mine?" Luke froze. "She's not yours," he said. Baxter smirked. "Everything in this town belongs to someone. You think you can change that?" Luke stepped close enough that their breath merged in the cold. "She and those children stay with me," he said quietly. "Touch them, and I'll bury you." Baxter's smile thinned. "You're making a big mistake." Luke brushed past him and mounted his horse. But as he rode away, he felt Baxter's eyes burning into his back. This wasn't over. Not by a long mile. Snow softened the world as Luke approached the ranch. Smoke rose from his chimney. Warm light glowed through the windows. A family waited inside. A family that wasn't his, Not yet. But he felt something tightening in his chest. Something he hadn't felt in years. Belonging. As he reached the porch, Marianne opened the door, relief washing over her face. "You're safe," she whispered. Luke stepped inside, snow melting from his coat. "For now," he said. The storm outside had passed, but a new one, louder, darker, was building fast. Evening settled slow over the Harding ranch. The fire glowed steady. The children played quietly with a set of carved wooden animals Luke hadn't touched in years. Marianne stitched a torn sleeve by the lamp, her hands moving with calm purpose. Luke stood at the window, watching the last smear of sunlight fade behind the pines. Something in him eased at the sight behind him, warmth, safety, family. Something he'd thought he'd buried long ago. But danger still hung in the air like the cold. Marianne sensed it. "Luke, what did Baxter say?" Luke didn't turn yet. "That I'm meddling, and you told him that you and the kids stay here." He finally looked back. He didn't like it. Fear flickered across her face, barely, but enough to cut him. "You don't owe us this fight," she whispered. "I took you in," he said. "That makes you mine to protect." Marianne's breath caught. Not fear. Something else. Something warmer, heavier. "Luke, you can't fight a whole town." "I'm not fighting the town," he said. "Just one man." She lowered her head. "One man can do a lot of harm." Luke's jaw tightened. "Not while I'm standing." The next morning brought clear skies, but bitter cold. Luke spent hours repairing the wagon wheel that had split in the storm. Marianne helped where she could, holding boards, handing tools, keeping the children close when the wind picked up. As Luke tightened the last bolt, she stepped beside him. "You work like a man who keeps his mind busy to keep his heart quiet," she said softly. Luke paused, wrench in hand. "You see too much. You hide too little." He looked at her, really looked. The dark circles under her eyes. The strength in her posture. The scars life had carved into her. And the quiet fire still burning inside her. "Your husband," Luke said slowly. "You loved him deeply." "I did." Her voice softened. "But love doesn't mean I'm not allowed to live after him." A wind gust swept through the yard, tossing hair across her face. She brushed it back, but Luke reached out and caught a loose strand before she could. Her breath tightened. He pulled his hand away gently. "Sorry." "No," she whispered. "Don't be." A moment hung between them, warm, dangerous, tender. But then Ben shouted from the porch, breaking the spell. "Ma, Luke, there's someone coming." Luke's head snapped toward the road. Two riders approached fast. He stepped forward, shielding Marianne and the children behind him. The riders slowed at the gate. One raised a hand. "Harding, it's just us." Luke let out a breath. Sheriff Doolin and Deputy Mara rode up through the snow, faces tight with concern. "Luke," the sheriff said, swinging down from his horse. "We need to talk." Luke opened the gate. "What's wrong?" "It's Baxter," Sheriff Doolin said. "He's been in town stirring folks. Says you stole that family from him. Says the widow owed." Silence fell over the ranch. Marianne turned to Luke, voice trembling. "We can't beat him. He owns the town." Luke stepped forward, lifting her chin gently so she'd look at him. "You're forgetting something," he said. "What?" "You're not alone anymore." Her breath hitched. "And I don't lose family," Luke added quietly. "Not again." A tear slipped down her cheek. She didn't wipe it away. 3 days passed like a slow-moving storm cloud, dark, heavy, and threatening to burst. Luke sharpened tools, checked the fence line, repaired the barn door, anything to keep his mind steady. But every time he looked toward the horizon, he saw Baxter's shadow waiting. Marianne helped chop vegetables and mend clothes, though her hands shook sometimes when she thought no one was watching. The children stayed close, sensing the tension even without understanding it. On the morning of the hearing, Luke hitched the wagon while Marianne wrapped Ruth in a blanket. Ben climbed up beside Luke, looking braver than he felt. Marianne approached slowly, her breath fogging in the cold air. "You sure we should go?" she whispered. "We don't show up, Baxter wins," Luke said. "He gets everything he wants." "And if we do show up?" she asked. Luke adjusted the reins. "Then he's got to lie to our faces. And that's something a man ain't always good at." Marianne stared at him, fear and trust tangled together. "Stay close to me," Luke said. Both of you. She nodded, climbing onto the seat beside him. The wagon rolled forward. The trail in a pine veil felt longer than usual, quieter too. White fields, bare trees, a cold sky that didn't care much for human troubles. But as they neared town, voices rose from the square. Too many. Too loud. Luke's face hardened. "Ben, Ruth," he said softly. "Hold on to your mama." The courthouse steps were crowded. Men with folded arms. Women whispering behind gloved hands. Baxter stood near the entrance, smug as a fox near a chicken coop. "So you came," he called out. Luke helped Marian down from the wagon, then lifted the children after her. "We're not afraid of you," Luke said. Baxter laughed. "You should be." Marian swallowed hard, but Luke placed a hand on her back, guiding her forward. Sheriff Doolin stood waiting at the door with Deputy Mara. "Glad you came," the sheriff said quietly. Town stirred up. "We'll settle it inside," Luke replied. But as they stepped through the doors, a voice rose behind them. "She ain't fit to raise those children." Marian stiffened. Luke turned, eyes sharp enough to cut. "You say that again," Luke warned. The man backed down, but Baxter's gasps rippled through the room. Baxter's face went ghost pale. "That's slander," Baxter roared. "You all hear him?" "That's—" Deputy Mara cut in. "There were inconsistencies in the mine logs. We never had proof, but we suspected." The room fell silent. Judge Harlan steepled his fingers. "Mr. Baxter, until these matters are investigated, the court rules you have no legal hold on Mrs. Holt or her children." Marian's knees nearly buckled. Ruth clung to her waist. Ben whispered, "Mama, we can stay with Luke?" She broke into tears, quiet, shaking tears she'd held back for months. Judge Harlan continued, "Furthermore, Mrs. Holt's debt is settled, and she is under the protection of the Harding household until this matter is closed." Baxter's face twisted with rage. "This ain't over," he hissed. Luke turned. "No, it's just starting." Outside the courthouse, the town gathered tighter, whispering, watching. Marianne held Ruth. Ben pressed against Luke's side. Luke helped them onto the wagon, then climbed up last. As they rolled out of the square, Baxter shouted after them, "You'll regret this, Harding. Every last one of you." Marian gripped Luke's arm. "He's not done. He'll come for us." Luke looked straight ahead, voice low. "Then let him come." The wagon moved down the snowy road toward home. But night was falling, and shadows were gathering behind them. The sky darkened fast that evening, the kind of deep blue that warned of bad things moving in with the cold. Luke lit lanterns around the house while Marianne settled Ben and Ruth upstairs, whispering reassurance even though her own hands trembled. Sheriff Doolin had warned them Baxter wouldn't let the court's decision rest, and Luke believed him. After the children were asleep, Luke walked the perimeter of the ranch. Snow crunched under his boots. The air felt tight. Watching, listening. Marianne waited for him on the porch, wrapped in a shawl, breath misting in the cold night. "Anything?" she whispered. "Not yet," he said. "But he'll come." Marianne moved closer. "Luke, what if he comes for the children? What if?" Luke touched her cheek gently, stopping the spiral before it swallowed her whole. "No one's talking those children," he said softly. "Not while I'm breathing. Not while you're breathing." The quiet broke then. Ruth coughing upstairs, the horses shifting in the barn, the wind dragging itself across the plain. Ordinary sounds. Unsettling tonight. They went inside. Luke checked the rifle leaning near the door, the pistol tucked behind the kitchen shelf. Marianne watched him, fear swirling in her eyes. "You don't have to do this alone," she said. "I ain't," Luke replied. "You and the little ones are here. That's enough for any man to fight for." Hours passed. The house slept, except the two adults sitting in the dim firelight, nerves stretched thin as wire. Midnight edged in quiet and cold. Then, far off, hooves cracked through the silence. Marian stiffened. Luke stood slowly, lantern light flickering across his face. "They're here," he murmured, then appeared at the stairs in his nightshirt. "Ma, I heard horses." Marian hurried to him, kneeling. "You stay with your sister. You keep her close. Don't come out until Luke or I come get you. Understand?" Ben swallowed hard. "Yes'm." Luke placed his hand on the boy's shoulder. You protect your sister. That's your only job. Ben nodded and ran upstairs. Luke blew out all but one lantern, leaving the room shadowed. Outside, voices drifted low and mean. That's his house there. He'll come out if we call. Set fire if you don't. Marianne gripped Luke's arm. Luke, he didn't answer. He stepped outside before she could stop him. The night burst open with tension. 4 riders, Baxter among them. Their torches lit the snow in sick orange lines. Well, Harding, Baxter called, grinning like a man who'd already written the ending. You thought you won today. Luke stepped onto the porch, rifle at his side, but not raised. I didn't win anything, he said. Judge made a ruling. You lost. That's all. Oh, I ain't lost, Baxter said. Because I don't care what that judge says. You give me the widow and her brats, and this ends clean. Luke shook his head. Not happening. Baxter's smile sharpened. Then this gets ugly. Sheriff Doolin wasn't riding in to help this time. Luke could see that truth plain as the empty road behind them. It was just Luke, just Marianne, just the children, and 4 armed men. Luke stepped down off the porch. His breath rose white in the cold. You boys ride away, he said quietly. Right now, and you'll live to see spring. Baxter laughed, a high broken thing. You and what army? Luke raised his rifle. This one. A click sounded behind Baxter. Then another. Then 2 more. Sheriff Doolin stepped from the shadows of Luke's barn, shotgun leveled at the riders. Beside him stood Deputy Mara, and behind them, half the men of Pinevale. Ranchers, miners, farmers, everyone armed. Baxter spun. What's this? Doolin's voice was calm. Town's done letting you run it like a tyrant. We heard the court, a rancher said. We heard the lies, another added. And we know the truth now, someone else said, Catherine's husband. Baxter's men shifted uneasily. Luke lowered his rifle, but didn't let go. This is over, Doolin said. Drop your guns. You can't do this. Baxter yelled. I own half this town. Not anymore, Doolin said. Drop them. The 4 men looked around, torches flickering, rifles pointed at them from every direction, justice closing in like a noose. One by one, their guns hit the snow. Baxter last, hands trembling with rage. Deputy Mara cuffed him. You're under arrest for attempted kidnapping, armed threat, bribery, and endangering the lives of minors. Luke finally exhaled, shoulders loosening. Someone clapped him on the back. Others nodded. A few apologized. But Luke didn't stand among them long. He turned and went inside, where Marianne stood shaking. He shut the door, locked it, then pulled her into his chest. She melted against him, shoulders collapsing as the fear drained out in silent tremors. It's over, Luke whispered. You and the children are safe. For good. She pulled back just enough to look up at him. Luke, we wouldn't be alive without you. You're here because you fought for your family, he said. I just opened the door. Her eyes filled. You're our home now, she said softly. Luke cupped her face, brushing away a tear with his thumb. And you're mine. Ben and Ruth appeared on the stairs, sleepy, frightened. Luke opened his arms, and the children rushed into them. All 4 held each other in the quiet house, warm, alive, safe. A real family at last. Morning came clean and bright. By noon, Baxter and his men were behind bars. The mine would face investigation. The lies would crumble, and the Holt name would finally be cleared. Luke, Marianne, Ben, and Ruth stood on the porch wrapped in blankets, watching the sun rise over snow-covered fields. Ruth tugged Luke's sleeve. Are we really staying forever? Luke lifted her into his arms. If your mama wants that. Marianne slipped her hand into his. I want it, she said, more than anything. Luke smiled, small, warm, certain. Then welcome home, he whispered. The wind carried the words across the ranch, across the mountains, across every road they'd once traveled alone. Now they'd walk them together, a family forged in hunger and storm, redeemed by courage, bound by love, the kind that never dies. If you felt this tale in your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Wild West Emotional Tales, where every story rides through the dust, the danger, and the kind of love that never dies. See you in the next tale, partner.